My name is Jamie, and the story of my weekend escape to a secluded Airbnb cabin is one I never imagined I'd be telling. If someone had suggested that my search for peace would lead me into a suspenseful adventure, I would have laughed it off. Yet, here I am, reflecting on an experience that turned my world upside down. I was running on empty, with the relentless pace of my job in the city draining every ounce of my energy. The noise, the crowds, the never-ending rush, it all became too much. I longed for silence, for a chance to hear my own thoughts without the constant buzz of urban life. That's when I stumbled upon the listing for a cabin hidden deep within the woods, miles away from the nearest town. It promised solitude, a precious commodity I was desperately in need of. The drive to the cabin was a balm to my frazzled nerves. With each mile, the city's grip on me loosened, replaced by the calming embrace of nature. The forest road was winding and narrow, flanked on either side by a dense canopy of trees. It felt like I was driving into another world, one where time moved more slowly and the air was clean and fresh. As I approached the cabin, my anticipation grew. It sat there, a quaint, rustic abode, its wooden exterior blending seamlessly with the surrounding wilderness. It was as if the cabin had been waiting for me, a solitary figure eager to share its tranquil domain. I parked my car and stepped out, taking a moment to breathe in the pure forest air. The contrast to the city was stark and immediate, the silence so profound I could hear the faint rustle of leaves and the distant call of a bird. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, a sense of coming home to a place I'd never been before. The cabin itself was more charming than the photos had led me to believe. Rustic, certainly, but with all the modern comforts one could ask for. It was the perfect blend of wilderness and convenience, a cozy retreat in the midst of nature's vastness. As I began to unpack and settle in, my excitement was palpable. I explored each room, marveling at the attention to detail. The living room was inviting, with a plush sofa facing the fireplace. The kitchen, though small, had everything I needed, and the bedroom, with its large window offering views of the forest, promised restful nights. I stepped out onto the wooden deck, taking in the view. The forest stretched out before me, an endless sea of green. It was at this moment of quiet contemplation that I heard a voice, breaking the silence. "Quite the place you've got here," said a friendly voice from behind me. I turned to see a man, presumably a neighbor or perhaps the caretaker, standing a few feet away. His sudden appearance caught me off guard, but his warm smile put me at ease. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" I replied, returning the smile. "I was just thinking the same thing." "Enjoy your stay," he said with a nod. "And if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. It's easy to feel a bit isolated out here, but that's part of the charm, isn't it?" "Absolutely," I agreed, thankful for his kindness. Isolation was exactly what I was looking for. As he walked away, disappearing as quietly as he had appeared, I was left with a sense of peace. The cabin, with its rustic charm and serene location, promised a weekend of relaxation and solitude. Little did I know, the tranquility of this secluded getaway was about to be disrupted in a way I could never have anticipated. The sun was high, its light filtering through the dense canopy of leaves, casting a mosaic of shadows on the forest floor. I had ventured out from the cabin, seeking to immerse myself in the tranquility of nature, to listen to the symphony of the woods that had become my sanctuary. The chirping of birds, the whisper of the breeze, the occasional rustle of foliage. It was a melody that soothed the soul. As I meandered along a barely visible path, the crunch of leaves underfoot my only companion, I noticed a figure moving through the trees. At first, I dismissed it as a trick of the light, a shadow playing among the trunks. But as my eyes adjusted, the unmistakable outline of a man emerged from the dappled sunlight. He seemed out of place, a stark contrast to the natural harmony around us. His movements were aimless, his path through the underbrush lacking direction. It was as if he was searching for something, though what that could be in such a remote expanse was beyond my comprehension. Driven by a blend of concern and curiosity, I called out to him. "Hey, are you okay?" My voice seemed too loud in the quiet of the woods, an intrusion on the peace I had come to cherish. The man paused, his head tilting slightly as if he heard something distant, but then he continued on his way, paying me no heed. It was a strange reaction, or rather, a lack thereof, that sent a ripple of unease through me. Returning to the cabin, the encounter weighed heavily on my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something profoundly off about the man in the woods. As the evening drew in, the shadows lengthening, I found myself glancing out the windows, half expecting to see him lurking among the trees. Seeking distraction, I decided to call the local ranger station, hoping for some reassurance. "Hello. I'm staying at the cabin off of Cedar Ridge, and I saw someone wandering in the woods today. Seemed a bit odd, just wanted to make sure everything's okay out there." The ranger on the other end was polite, his voice carrying a note of routine concern. "We get hikers out here from time to time, though it's less common this season. Could be someone just enjoying the wilderness. Keep an eye out, and give us a call if you see anything else unusual, all right?" His words were meant to comfort, but they did little to ease the nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach. "Of course, thank you," I replied, trying to sound more at ease than I felt. That night, the silence of the cabin felt oppressive, the darkness outside impenetrable. Every creak and whisper of the wind seemed magnified, a stark reminder of the vast, unknowable woods that surrounded me. The man in the woods had become a specter of unease, his presence a question mark that loomed large in the solitude of my secluded getaway. As dusk settled over the cabin, wrapping the woods in shadows, I found myself trying to shake off the unease that had taken root since the afternoon's odd encounter. I busied myself with cooking, the familiar routine a welcome distraction, and soon the aroma of dinner filled the cozy space. Afterward, I sank into an armchair with a book, the soft rustle of pages a comforting sound against the backdrop of the forest's nocturnal chorus. The tranquility was abruptly shattered by the doorbell, its chime startlingly out of place in the wilderness. My heart skipped a beat. Visitors were the last thing I expected out here. Approaching the door with trepidation, I peered through the peephole and was met with a surprising sight. The man from the woods, bathed in the glow of the porch light. Opening the door a crack, I eyed him warily. "I'm really sorry to disturb you," he began, his voice tinged with embarrassment. "I seem to have gotten a bit lost. Could you possibly help me find my way back?" There was something about him, an uneasiness that didn't quite match his predicament. Yet, the thought of leaving someone stranded, especially in such a remote area, tugged at my conscience. "Sure, just give me a moment to grab my phone," I replied, keeping the door ajar as I turned back into the house. The seconds stretched out as I searched for my phone, a sense of urgency propelling me. When I returned to the door, phone in hand, ready to offer assistance, I found nothing but the empty night waiting for me. He had vanished, leaving no trace behind, not even the sound of footsteps to suggest which way he might have gone. Stepping out onto the porch, I called into the darkness. "Hello? Are you still there?" My voice felt small, swallowed up by the vastness of the forest. There was no reply, only the whispering of the trees. Retreating inside, I locked the door behind me, a shiver running down my spine. The questions circled in my mind, each more unsettling than the last. Who was he, really? What had brought him to my door, and where had he disappeared to so abruptly? By dawn, the decision was made. The sense of peace I had sought in this secluded retreat had been irrevocably shattered. With the first light filtering through the curtains, I began to pack, the desire to put distance between myself and the cabin overwhelming. As I loaded the car, I couldn't help but cast wary glances at the woods that had so recently seemed a haven. Now, they harbored shadows and secrets, the mystery of the vanishing visitor lingering like a fog. With a final look at the cabin, as I did, the man appeared in the front window, standing inside the house, watching me leave. I drove away, leaving its mysteries unsolved, the echo of what might have been haunting me as I returned to the world I had sought to escape.